Welcome to the Simply Real Life podcast. I'm Sarah, the founder of Simply Real Health, here to help you simplify, amplify, and elevate your life. This show is for those of you who want the real talk on how to live a more intuitive and intentional life, a life that's healthy from the inside out, and one that feels more effortless, aligned, simple, and more alive. We cover it all, from health, wellness, mindset, motherhood, daily habits and rituals, to business and relationships, creativity and growth, and tiny tricks to feeling your best, and the energetics behind it all filled with personal stories, unfiltered conversations, and of course, answering all of your burning questions, all in the way of simplicity and keeping it real, so that you can create your own version of your healthiest life. Let's do it. So I know that this is a busy time of year. And my hope today is that this feels like a breath of fresh air, that this feels like almost like a prayer for summer, that this is something where you can think, okay, we are entering into a new season. And for so many of us, it means that there's going to be changes, like changes in the schedule, there's changes in weather, there's changes in the amount of activities that we probably have, changes in social things and events. And it's a really perfect time, anytime there is a change of the season in any time of the year, but particularly with summer, there's like a very special energy to it that if you can harness it well, and I think go into it with an idea of how you're wanting it to feel, I think it makes such a difference for so many parts of our life. So that's my hope today, is that you leave this feeling inspired and renewed and refreshed and filled with some different ideas as to how you want to feel this summer. And instead of going into the summer and just feeling like flooded and overwhelmed, and maybe you have kids at home, maybe you're trying to juggle work, maybe we're trying to do all of these different things this time of year, that you take even a second, like before things really get started this summer, that you take just a few minutes to yourself to think about, like, how would I approach this if I got to create this? If I got to create my summer, how I feel, how my body feels, how my calendar feels, internally, how things feel, externally, maybe in my home or with my kids, what would that look like? And what would that be? And today I'm going to share with you my personal vision and how I got to this vision. But the ideal is that you don't need to copy this, but you can. If you feel like you're not sure what to do or how you want to think or how you want to feel, borrow some of these and just try and test them out. And as you do, I think you will get closer and closer to feeling like, okay, maybe I know what I would like or what I would desire a little bit more. So I'm going to share with you mine, but as I'm talking through these things, I really do want you to be thinking of you and like what types of things would make you feel alive, would make you feel calm, would make you feel just more refreshed and balanced and steady this time of year. So we're going to get into it. Okay. I know there's no time to waste. This time of year is too busy for that. Okay. If you are here, will you just come say hi? Just also we can check the tech and check that everything's working. You can see, you can hear. I'm just going to double check we're recording this so that people can pop in and watch this later too on the replay. Just say hi in the little chat box. Should be on your right. Maybe it's on your left. Either way. So just a little background, I'm like, where did we even get this idea? First of all, you are all my people. If you're like, yes, like this Mediterranean woman vibe, like how to create this summer and this experience. This was really inspired by all of the work that I was putting in to do the secret energetics of food, which is really inspired by, I think, how so many other women in the world operate, aside from us in the US, where we are stressed out, we are overwhelmed, we people please, we say yes to everything, we're perfectionists, we kind of get flooded because we're doing so much and we feel external pressure and internal pressure on ourselves. And when you look at so much of how other parts of the world operate, there's a very different vibe. And I think that we could learn a lot from it. I'm not saying that we have to be exactly like that, but there are pieces and elements of the way that different women live that I think are very wise and like grounded in something so much bigger than just what's the most urgent thing on our to-do list and having to-do lists that are never ending and getting to the place where I feel like most women I know, it's like we just are running so hard on our nervous systems all the time. Again, whether the pressure is internal on ourselves with things like perfectionism and all or nothing mentalities, or it's external, like pleasing and doing and performing and over functioning in like every area of our life. Okay. Thanks for saying hi. Hi, Caitlin. Hey, Debbie. So the thought is just like drawing some inspiration from that there are other ways to do this and other ways to live. And specifically when we're thinking about a life that is healthier and a life that is more intentional and a life that is more aligned, like, and true to you. The biggest question I always ask is like, how do you want to feel? More than like the ways that we're taught of setting goals and vision, like I want to do this and this and this. And, every January, it's like, I'm going to become this entirely new person. And it's based on these achievements versus how do we want to feel is actually an entirely different question. But when you can get clear on how you're wanting to feel in your life. So think of, I like to call them like life buckets. Think of like all the important life buckets, the things, the parts of your life that are important to you, your priorities, the things, maybe it's your health, maybe it's your mental health, maybe it's your, physical body, maybe it's your family, maybe it's kids, maybe it's work or your career. Maybe it's your relationship. Like these are all kind of like major life buckets, right? And thinking of approaching our life instead of like life happening to you and we're constantly in reaction mode. This is about taking a totally different approach of like, what if we were the ones actually in charge and we got to say, how do we want to feel? And we look at all the areas of our life, say, how do I want to feel in my marriage, in my relationship? How do I want to feel as a mother? How do I want to feel in my work or in my career or what I'm doing, for the most part of my day? How do I want to feel in my body? How do I want to feel in my mind? How do I want to feel when I look at my calendar? And for most of us, there's usually like a word or two that kind of quickly pops up. And it may be the antithesis of what you feel like your life is right now. And that's okay. That's a good sign, whatever it may be. But like kind of closing your eyes and thinking like, how do I want to feel? So starting even with this general question of like, if this goal is to, maybe your version of this is a Mediterranean woman summer like mine, I would take you through all the details of that and the questions I ask myself and how I kind of get to the place where I clearly know where I want to spend my time and where I want to spend my energy, right? Based on how I'm wanting to feel. Instead of being in reaction mode, things happen to me, sort of that victim mentality of like, I want to be in the place of like, what if I got to design my life purely by, I know there's so many parts of it we can't control, right? Where there's things we have to do and show up for in our day, of course, responsibilities that we have. But there's also so many tiny little intricate moments, tiny parts of our day where we are actually in charge of what we fill that time with what we fill our space with what we fill our minds with. And like, I really think it's so much about those little tiny things that add up over time. So even though you may be thinking like, I'm nowhere in the Mediterranean, I'm not even traveling this summer, but I want you to think about the vibe and the energy of that person. Maybe it's you if you were there, and you could pick any place in the world. Last summer, the vision or the thing that made it feel fun was thinking about a French girl summer. That felt like a little more with it, like a little more pulled together, a little more, I was just coming out of the year of having my last baby and, feeling kind of wanting to find myself and find my womanhood and feel more feminine again and just more put together and more getting out a little bit more. So it was just the French girl summer. And this year it's a totally different vibe. So starting with this question of how do you want to feel? And is there any type of vision or place where you've remembered feeling like that? Is there, it could be something a different place that you've traveled, or it could just be something the pure question of how do I want to feel, how I want to be, what's the vibe I'm channeling for myself. Okay. Maybe it's connected to a place, maybe not. That part to me makes it fun. and is like this immediate filter anytime I am, making a decision of, do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? Here's the options here. I sort of filter it through like, what would the Mediterranean woman in me do? Like how would she choose her clothes for the day? How would she choose what's on the calendar? Is there like space for or presence and joy? And so for me, the ways, like the answer to the question, how do I want to feel? I'm like, I want to feel refreshed. You can have multiple words or you can pick one or two, however you want to do. So like write this down. How do you want to feel? Mine are refreshed, present, an essence of like just vitality and aliveness. I want to have this delight, like this, and I think that is tied to presence, but like when you are present and when you are aware, there is this element of like enjoyment or delight or just being like wowed by things or amazed by things. Can be connected to also like feeling grateful for the things that you do have or the things that are right in front of you and dropping into that moment more versus all the distraction of the phone or the notifications or the false urgency that we put on things. But like being actually present helps you be more aware, right? Of just taking things in, of the little tiny things in your life that are amazing and like would probably have blown your mind even 5 years ago that this is your reality and you live it every day. But we don't like take that into account. We think like, oh, it's just the norm, and we blow right through it. So those are the words. And this is something I do every season. But I'm like, there's some fun element. I don't like give it a name every season, like my Mediterranean woman summer. But for the summer months, it feels really fun to add that extra element. So just an invitation to do that if you feel like that also feels fun. There's also, I have the word like simplicity or ease or flow to it. And then an element of like, of tradition, or the word that I always keep coming back to lately is just like heirloom, like an heirloom quality life, like things that are timeless, that stood the test of time, kind of like classics that just never go out of style, or, heirloom things of like the things that actually really matter. When you maybe look back at your life of how you're spending your time, or even as we get into things where I'm going to tell you even like the funny, silly things of like clothing, like what do I want my clothes? I want it to feel heirloom and timeless and classic. I'm like stripes. I'm really into navy blue right now and linen fabrics, like all of these things kind of align with these ideas of like refreshed and present simplicity, heirloom quality. And so that all of those words, I think, help create this image or this feel. And I think our brains work in two different ways, where you could have an image where it's maybe you feeling those things. And like when you envision that in your mind, is there a particular place that you remember feeling like refreshed, present, fully in delight, fully with like all the senses alive, or whatever your words are? Or it may be this vision where you close your mind and it's a vision of somebody else. It's almost like this fictitious character, right? Or something that you've seen in like a movie or a book, or maybe it's somebody that you follow, or, something where you're like, I have this vision of like, that's the vibe that I'm going for. So whatever works for you. I think both of them are great. Just that there is some sort of visual cue or image that when life does get busy, it's this sort of quick filter back into like, right, this is what I'm going for. This is what I'm wanting to create my life around a little more intentionally, again, versus how most people approach life, and especially approach summer, of like things are just like happening to you all the time versus being in the creation mode. Then the next question, and these are all kind of like general questions, and I'm going to tell you like some of these specific things that are just fun to think about, are like, what things make you feel that way? Those words that you wrote down, like what things, activities, what people, what clothing, what makeup, like you can go as wide or as narrow as you want, as nitty gritty or as like big picture things as you want. But like, what are the things that make you feel that way? They could be examples. They could be times of the day. They could be places you've been. It could be certain people. It could be certain activities. Like the options are endless. Another question, if you're sort of struggling of like, I don't know, how do I know I want to feel. Like, what is your favorite version of yourself? For me, I always think about like where my inspiration comes from. I'm like, when I am on a trip or traveling or vacation or just like in a new setting, I feel like it awakens all of these different senses. And I become so aware. I'm like, of observing different people. This is sort of my personality. I'm like just observing and intaking, watching how they eat and move and dress. And I just find it fascinating. And so it's a very easy, I'm like the favorite version of myself is one who is more relaxed, right? And more present, more aware, just like taking things in versus like holding things so tightly and putting so much pressure on myself or stacking my schedule like crazy. So just another question, like what is your favorite version of yourself? So I started thinking, I'm like, it's my vacation self, but it's elevated. It's like vacation self plus the heirloom and timeless. When I think about something like the Mediterranean, I'm like, people there are so healthy, but they're healthy in a different way. They're healthy in the way that they trust their body completely. They're not eating perfectly. They're not drinking perfectly, but there's this sense of just like deep trust in food, in their body, in their hunger, in the time of day. They enjoy probably at least once a day in things that we probably don't consider healthy, but it's because that internal trust. And there's a whole culture around that. Like in their culture, it's like, it's only fresh food. There's not a lot of processed food. Like it is only fresh food. So there's no reason to not trust your body, right? There's no reason to not trust your hunger because they've never learned otherwise. And I just think it's such a like wise and beautiful way to live. So that to me connects to like heirloom, quality, like wisdom, over fads, and that deep sense of like trust and knowledge in your body, in its hunger and the timing, but it's very low key, right? They like slow down when they're eating and they really like take a break for lunch. They really like have the pace is so different. And it's so different than how I'm naturally wired. So I think there's like this draw to it. I don't feel I'm like that. I would like to be more like that. Like give me some of that. And so all of the things, I'm thinking, I'm like, they take more time. Their pace is a little bit slower. They are not multitasking. They are like very comfortable with like waiting until they're hungry. And then they have these beautiful meals that are not perfect, but it's just, real food. And they listen to their body and they're social and they are just present with who they are and who they're with. And I think that's like a beautiful thing that really inspires me to like take a double check as to what I am doing, how I am operating in the day. It's not my normal mode, right? So it's a really good question of like, okay, like what could I do to bring a little bit more of that energy into my life, like in this particular season? There's also this idea of, to me, like they are being much more intuitive versus robotic. And ultimately this bigger idea of like it's more of like living in the feminine energy of like flow and relaxation, trusting yourself, intuition, being okay with resting, having this like deep vitality and this aliveness and this like love of just these small daily moments in life and treasuring them versus blowing right through them. All of that is like connected to living in much more feminine energy than masculine energy, which is, if you've been around in any workshops or things I teach, this topic always comes up because the masculine is like really how we're taught and trained, especially as women, to perform and how to be in the world of like always achieving, always doing, on to the next thing, fill your schedule, fill your plate. Every day should look the same, eat the same every meal. You should have so much energy and you can count on it and you just go hard and you get it done. And it's like, that is great for certain parts of your life or certain times, but living in that energy nonstop will lead you to burnout, will lead you to an exhausted nervous system, will lead you to health issues, usually digestion issues, hormone issues, skin issues, like you name it. It's like we as women are not wired to live that way and in that energy 100% of the time. But it's how we've all grown up. It's what we've seen modeled. It's like, if you're not being productive, then who are you? It's a waste of time, waste of space. It's like we are our worth is so based on what we do or achieve versus who we are. And so this whole like overarching identity is just this beautiful invitation to like, can I tap more into that like feminine energy versus my natural wiring of pack it in, get it done, you know, kind of that like achiever, the performer side of me, the side that runs a business beautifully and well and can manage people and manage a household and manage kids and do all these things. But if I am in that and live in that energy all the time, all day long, I will not be feeling good. So it's also an invitation to kind of look at like, what's the way I naturally dominate with things? And would it be healthy for me or helpful or maybe even a good challenge or practice to like approach even just some parts of my life with a different energy or a different feel? Does anybody relate? Like, do you guys relate to that? Do you feel like there's going to be probably some part of this where you are creating this energy or vibe that's like maybe not your natural state or your automatic go-to, but there's something there for us, I think, when we're able to kind of like look and see like, what is another way to do this or another energy to approach this in, can be very different. And I think more than anything, the energy that we do things with and really how we're thinking about things in our mind creates like your thinking and how we think creates the energy that you give and have for things. So if you're running around all day thinking like you're always in lack and limit and scarcity mindset, or always in a fear-based mindset of what could go wrong or the worst possible scenario, or that there's never enough time and you're always in a rush and you're trying to squeeze things in, that type of thinking, right? The stories that we tell ourselves and the things that we have running in our mind has such a deep impact on how we feel and how we show up and how we do things, right? So much of it, like 90%, I know I've like always been such a food girl, and I am. Real food will always be the foundation, but your mindset is like 95% of things. 95% are how you feel, and your life is connected to how you're thinking and the thoughts that you let run and the stories that you tell yourself, which is why I think it's so helpful to intentionally, like before a season starts, to think through like, how do I want to feel before the world takes over, before my automatic programming takes over, before my mindset comes in with all these stories and excuses and reasons why I can't, or I don't have enough time, or this is not realistic for me, or this is not my life is never going to be like this in the Mediterranean, so what's the point? That it's actually the way that you're thinking and the way that you're talking to yourself that impacts whether you can access these other energies or truly bridging to how you want to feel is all how we're thinking and like in our mind. And even things like trying to tap into feminine, because I see like everything, I don't allow myself to use my feminine energy. I know it's in there. I just need to remember it's a value, right? It's like we say it's like not as important, or it's less than, or we're not praised for it growing up. So what's the point of rest? What's the point of going a little bit slower? What's the point of taking on less? It's like we see this like feminine energy and delight and presence and joy and simplicity and vitality as like nice to have on just vacation. But the truth is like, those are such a big pivotal themes in your life that you can draw into your daily life, right? Not just when you're on vacation, but that you could actually create that feel more often in your real daily life when things are crazy and chaotic and busy and you have kids yelling at you and everyone's home and you're trying to balance work and you're trying to balance all of these things. Maybe just speaking of personal experience. But like reminding yourself that like the other energies are just as valuable, maybe even more so, especially if it feels sort of like I don't really allow myself, I don't really let myself do that. Okay, this is the season you are going to let yourself do that and play and practice, and just like what things are good just for your mental state, for your creativity, just doing things for the love of it, doing things because they invoke this sense of delight or or pleasure or joy or slowing down a little bit. Yeah. And it's like there are entire cultures that's the basis of how they live. So it is doable, right? I'm not saying it's better or worse, but I'm like, both are easily accessible to you. And we get to choose our state by how we're thinking. And even like having these specific words that help us like drop in and like, right, remember how I want to feel is this. So what are my thoughts leading to? And then what are my actions leading to? Are they connected in that same lane? Or am I saying that I want to feel like this, but then all my thoughts and all my actions are they're way over here. They're not even close. So it's just a good like reflection point. Yeah. Okay, Alexa's saying I'm bringing myself back to the energy of my 2-week trip to Sicily this past September. They've got it figured out. I know. I have been once in my life and it's still something that's like made such an impact on me. I'm like, it is so different how they live. And they're all seem so much healthier and happier. And there's something there, there's definitely something there. So as you like to think through, right? And again, this is going to be something that feels alive and true for you. So my thoughts on like shared the words, I've shared things of like the vibe of it, like the people there, like they're so in tune with their body. They're not as concerned with the time on the clock or schedules or rushing to the next thing. It's like, they're just trusting of themselves. They're trusting of their bodies. They're trusting of food. The rhythm of their day is a pace that feels more kind of slow and gentle. A lot of that starts with how they're thinking, right? And the stories that they're telling themselves. They indulge daily without guilt. They have a higher self-worth around food, around social stuff, around boundaries, around what their nervous system needs. They kind of have this just of like, I deserve good thing. I deserve the best. And if it's not the best, it's not really worth it. There's no bottom feeding. There's no scraping the barrel. There's no desperate energy. Okay. So it's like those types of things. The next thing that I find really helpful, we've got like the basic idea and like the feel and the vibe. The next thing I always find helpful is to like, let's take this through some specifics of my real daily life right now. So the first thing I always ask myself is like, okay, this sort of amazing vision, but like, how are we going to actually execute this in real life? The best question that I always tend to ask myself is like, okay, how can I infuse this feeling into my life in little ways? Like what parts, I almost go through my like normal daily routine. And what would like the Mediterranean woman summer version of me do here? So I think about like my morning routine, like, is there any parts of it that I could just bring a little bit more of that feel of like flow or presence with my body or myself or my mind, that value of like the higher self-worth? What would that version of me do this summer? And so it makes me think of things like, I'm like, well, I want to be doing my morning walk. I love my morning walk. Like even 10 minutes resets my mind. It resets my body. I love listening to activations and it just like gets my mind right for the day. But I'm like, the Mediterranean version of me would probably take a little bit longer of a walk. So I might have to get up a little bit early because I like thinking about, well, there it's really hot. So they like to get their movement in, and walking is typically what they do in the morning. And I'm like, okay, that sounds fun. I could try that and pretend that I'm like living there. I would have to get up a little bit earlier so I could walk when it's a little bit cooler and still kind of have that feeling or vibe. What else would they do? And I kind of think through my day. I'm like, this is not that you have to change your entire life, your entire schedule, but like look at your routine or the things that you know that you typically are doing at certain points of the day. I'm like, well, I have to eat lunch. So the Mediterranean woman version of me would probably, one, make sure I'm eating an actual lunch that's like balanced, has some veggies, has some protein or fat, or, something that's like substantial, and not just blowing through it saying that I don't have time or like I have to do this first and that first. It's like, no, it's a commitment. It's a way you're blessing your body. It is, you are worth taking the time to do. And my lunches are not going to be an hour, hour and a half long, and they're not going to include a glass of wine, but I'm like, but I could do 10 minutes and it's about the energy I'm bringing to it. Sit down, eat my lunch, do it undistracted, try to remember to breathe. This is all the things, if any of you have done the secret energetics of food, we talk a lot about like how we're thinking and the state of our body predicts how we digest and process food and break it down. So being in a more relaxed state, and there's all types of tricks and things that you can do to your body and with your breathing and with your mind and your thoughts that bring your body into a state where you can digest a lot of different foods, not just perfect real food, but almost any food if your body's in a calmer state. And so that program does a deep dive into that and is inspired by being in Italy and these other cultures where it's like people don't have hormonal issues. They don't have SIBO. They don't have digestive issues. They don't have, it's like, and they can eat all kinds of things without tons of food sensitivities. And like we live in a very different way, but we think about how we eat, not just what we're eating. It's entirely different. So aligned with that, right? I'm like thinking through, all the secret energetics of food, all of those tips and the things that I talk about in there of like, let's just slow it down. Even again, if you just have 10 minutes, great. If you just have 5 minutes, great. Maybe like I would be more inclined with this vision to like take my lunch outside and not be eating it in front of my computer, or like eat slowly and then maybe take a 2-minute walk after. It's like we can make this practical. It doesn't have to be this like pie in the sky vision of like, if it's not literally me in the Mediterranean, what's the point? But it's about the energy. It's about the vibe. It's about how you're thinking about things and like what ways can you incorporate that feeling into the real parts of your day in a practical way, like getting these little tastes, like these little sprinkles throughout the day of like what that would look like. So just going through like your typical kind of daily schedule, are there ways, or this version of you, what would they do? The Mediterranean version of you or the French girl version of you, like what would they do? What are some different ideas to make it fun, to mix it up, to do something different this season, right? Maybe there's something in there about a wind down routine, or maybe it's coming up with like different late afternoon drinks that are not just a glass of wine or a cocktail, but like what are some other different fizzy concoctions or other things that you could have that just like bring more joy and delight and presence into your day, and you serve it in a wine glass, or you take it with you to the beach, or you're just like, change the energy around it and include some different things or swap some things out from your normal activities that more align with these visions of how we want to feel. So then I go through, the second piece I go to, aside from like daily routine, then I think, okay, like mindset. Is there just a general difference in the mindset or the ways that they think? And I kind of mentioned some of those already, but like a lot of them are like around pace and not rushing and being more present with where you are, and that there's always enough time for the things that matter, and that it is so worthwhile taking care of yourself and resting and doing things for creativity and doing things just for social community and connection to other humans and people. Like they really prioritize those things in their life. And so just a quick overview of like, how are these people thinking? How is this version of me thinking differently than my usual version of me? And it's just a very fascinating question to see like, okay, what things pop up in your mind around that. The next is, then I like to get kind of like a little more nitty gritty and like just add more detail just because it's fun, just because it's like, it helps give you more examples of the ways that you can pull this into your life. Again, even if life is busy, this is not about doing things perfectly or that it has to be like all or nothing. Like you can draw so many parts of this into your day. So then I like to go through like different things. Like I'm like, okay, workouts. Is there anything different there? Or things that I would want to focus on? What would the Mediterranean, woman version of me this summer be doing for workouts? Like I'd still do my Pilates. I would still be doing my walks. I would still be doing my weights, like 2 or 3 times a week. But it's about like a lot more life movement. It's about going out on an after dinner stroll. It's about doing a bike ride just because it's fun and not because it's a workout. It's like those types of things and activities, I'm like, oh yeah, like that is a little bit more in that vibe and in that energy. And so it's just something fun to think about in a category like, what am I doing to move my body? Are there things that I could pull in that, in that part of it? There's also things like, I look at like calendar, social events, like what would this version of me do? What do they want to do more of or have more space for? What do they want to do a little less of right now? And again, becomes more of that filter between like, is this aligned with who I'm wanting to become, with who I'm stepping into? Or is this something that I've always just said yes, or I've always done in default mode, or I've always done because it's a tradition, but does it actually feel good to me right now? Is it giving me more life than it's sucking away? So having like that vision of actually tactically looking through things like your calendar and what would that mean? And to me, I'm like, in this example, it's like more margin, more space, but more community, more friends, more just time with people, that like human connection versus life on screens or like work or emails or news feeds or any of that. I'm like, I want to be on my phone so much less. It's like one of the bigger goals, in this type of thing. Like, want to be in my real life, like with real people, with my kids, with my family, and like less distracted by all these other things. So even in things that like I'm committing to or saying yes to, I have that filter already going. But the vision of like the Mediterranean woman's summer is the thing that's like the filter between that. Okay. Food. I think I'm like, is there anything specific food wise that would make it fun or make me feel like I'm kind of like channeling this energy more? And I'm like, yes, a lot more fresh seafood. Fresh food dominating everything, which it usually does, but like the pace of things, the timing of things feels different than my maybe more so real life or other times of the year. I think about things like it's fun to eat out a little bit more because there's different patios and different ambiances and different settings and different foods to try, and that sort of like lingering feeling, but then also creating that at home too. So I'm like more seafood, more fresh fish, more like vegetables that are dressed with like a lot of like just lemon juice or like lemon juice and olive oil, these kind of like simple, fresh flavors that summer cooking is really about that. But I like having this kind of like added layer. What else? And then with food, I also think too about this idea of like trusting your hunger, trusting your body, not just eating on a certain rigid schedule, not eating the same things every day. There's seasons where that's very helpful, but like summer to me feels a little bit more like you can go with the flow a little bit more. And there's so many fresh foods that are in season. There's just a lot more choices and options this time of year, cold food, warm food, everything in between. So it's this reminder, at least for me, to be like just trusting of my actual hunger, listening to my body and not what the clock says and not what other people are doing or the fact that it's lunchtime and being on this robotic schedule, but more like I trust my body. It's going to want different things. Some days I'm going to be hungrier. Some days I may not as hungry. That's especially part of being a woman. Like our hunger very much changes, and the types of foods that we're into and sound good to us change, especially like with our cycle and different hormones at different times of the, month. Men's hormones, interestingly, cycle in a 24-hour cycle where it like peaks in the morning and they're raring to go and their hormones are just going. And then by like 5 o'clock drops down. Whereas our hormones and the cadence of our hormones, which is why it's like the being operating in masculine energy every day, a lot of times doesn't work with our biology, is that our hormones as women, even if you are past the state of having a period or you're in menopause or perimenopause, where our hormones still they cycle on a, about 4-week cadence of like steadying, peaking, and then dropping over the course of a whole month. And men is just over the course of a day. So having that permission, right, of like your body will be different, even week to week or day to day. Some days you need more heavier or grounding food or more protein or more fat to feel satiated and to feel really good. And other days it's like just you want lighter and things that are easier and quicker to digest, like smoothies and salads and or fruit, and that feels better than things like quinoa or the sweet potatoes and the heavier types of things. So anyways, all that to say, thinking about your food, are there any differences, changes, any things that you want to kind of play with? Can be a really fun thing to do. And then I talked about this too, like, what about clothing? What about the way you get dressed? And I know some people will think this is like a vain conversation, but I'm like, it's really about the energy. And if you're thinking like about your vibe, your energy, the ways that you're like the things you're wanting to call in, how we get dressed immediately impacts how you feel and how you talk to yourself and the way that you hold yourself even. So what types of things? And I find it fun. If you don't find it fun, you can skip this category. I find it fun to think about, okay, what do I want to be focusing on? I even think of different color. I'm like classic, like timeless. I want navy. I always love stripes. I want red, like a really great red and some corals and things that remind me of like the beach. I was like very much chose my outfit today. But like beachy and that, more like dresses and linen texture and natural fabrics, like not polyester as much. And I'm trying to get away from like being in athletic wear all day long, which is something that I naturally tend to do because I want to be able to like be active and go on a walk and, pick up my kids and feeling like I can be active and like fully in my life without worrying too much about my clothes getting ruined. But I'm like, there is some element of like, this is not going to be that all of a sudden I'm in linen dresses every day. It's more that I'm going to do what's functional and what works to keep me active and making me feel present, right? So probably the athletic wear for most of the day, but then like at nighttime or for the evenings, or if I'm going out somewhere, then it becomes more of like, oh, then here's an opportunity to get dressed and to like create this feel of how I'm wanting to feel. The fabrics, the linen, the like having a great hat, having great, well-fitting bathing suits, I'm like, there's just something about my age and having multiple kids. I'm like, I cannot do the cheapy bathing suits anymore. I want like a real woman's bathing suit where I feel great and I can like play and sit and do whatever I want and feel great, So there's things like that. And like the hats that like, it's just a different vibe. Even I think about like hair and nails. And I have always been somebody who has loved like a brighter polish on my hands. But the last 2 months, I've just been like, no, I just want bare nails. I want it to feel fresh. Like you're just out of the sea or on the beach and like healthy and vital and strong and like full of minerals. And so I'm really into just like a bare nail or just like a light. I have 2 polishes. This is so not the point of this call, but they're actually French companies where it's non-toxic nail polish. I can share the link after this, but like that, and it stays on. It's not fussy. It's effortless. I don't have to take nail polish off. It lasts for like 2 weeks. I can do another coat if I need to, but it's just like simple and it's nourishing for my nails. And I'm like, all of this plays into it. All of this plays into this vibe or this feel and makes it fun, right? It makes it fun to live more intentionally. It makes it fun to be more aligned. It makes it fun to just try on these different almost personalities that there's so much there for us to learn if we even just like let ourselves, sometimes we let ourselves do and play more when it feels a little less serious or it feels like we're playing with a vibe. We're playing with like somebody else's life that we're just like tapping into to experience. And that's the whole point. So whatever makes it fun for you, whatever parts of your life. So even in things like hair, I'm like, it would be kind of fun to just like let my natural hair go. I have like really curly hair and I rarely wear it like that anymore because it just feels like, then I have to shower more. I have to do it more. But I'm like, I don't know. This more of like I want to have the vibe of like, I want to be the mom that's jumping in the water with my, not so worried about my hair, like just have it be wet and let it figure out how to style it when it's like natural and curly and crazy. But I'm like, that's how I want to feel. And so even those little mini challenges to myself, like I know that this is going to sound so silly to so many of you, but this is like, that's one tiny example of like pulling this energy into different parts of your life just to try it on. Just to see it. Does it make you feel more free to just not care about that stuff anymore? Then that's the type of thing that we're talking about. For me, I also think about things like or even the hair of like, maybe it's more just like a slicked back look, getting the gel look done of like the slicked back bun and being unfussy about it. And like, so I can just be more present in my life and not worry about it too much. Like just examples. Or reading. Like I love maybe gravitating and gravitating toward, and I tend to do this most summer, gravitating to books that are like take place on the water. They're more like the beach reads or things that are like feel more summery. Like it even applies to the things that we read or things that we listen to or things that we do, because it's like another reminder in the course of our daily life to like pull in some of these other feelings of how you actually want to feel. And the people you surround yourself with, the things that you intake, the people you follow on social media, what your Pinterest feed looks like, the people that you hang out with, the books you read, the content you consume, like all creates our reinforcements of the life that you want to live, or they are pulling you in the opposite direction. So it's another fun thing to think about, right? What are you surrounding yourself with? And is that aligned with where you're wanting to go and who you're wanting to be, as specifically for this season? In the category of like love and relationships, and even like in motherhood, I've mentioned this a few times because some of these will start to overlap, but I'm thinking about more of like community and like more casual gatherings with simple food and not overdoing the hosting, but like being outside as much as possible with my kids and with my family. And then just filling my calendar and time with like quality time. And that's in my marriage, in my like relationships, in motherhood, like in relationship to my kids. It's like quality time and time in this feminine energy of like truly present, truly dropped in, whether it's with my husband, my kids, my friends, or people like extended friends or community. It's like just to like actually be there and not be distracted or on my phone or just thinking about a million things in my head, but like really in just more of that grounded, present, feminine energy. Then the last, there's two more things. So one of the other fun things I think to think about is like our activities that make you feel this way or that help you tap into this energy. And this is just almost like a list of ideas when you're like, if I'm saying no to some of these other things or commitments, what am I going to fill my time with? Or if you find yourself with extra time or on the weekend, like what would be things or activities that are aligned with this version of you? So some examples in my case would be like reading more, actually resting when my baby naps, like reading a book for 20 minutes and then doing some chores, but not just only doing chores the entire time, right? Different energy. Gardening, I love, like farmer's market, cooking simply, laying in the sun, being near water, social time, longer walks in the morning, eating on a patio anywhere, bike riding, picnics, eating watermelon, cherries, or peaches or plum, having slower mornings. All of these like kind of elicit this feeling for me. Date night, jumping in the water, swimming, like hair fully wet. So it gives your brain some clues as to like, these are the things that make me feel this way. And how can I include more of these things in my life this summer? Okay? Maybe it's a little bucket list you have for yourself. Maybe it's just a list of things you're like, what should I be filling my time with right now? Things like that. Then I think one of the most helpful questions of this entire thing is to then ask yourself, what things are not in line with this energy or feel? What things, activities, people, ways I spend my time, mindset, workouts, anything. You can almost go through your entire list or all the life buckets that you chose of the things that are priorities in your life and be like, what does not line up with that? Okay, some examples of mine are like rushing, having FOMO, overcommitting, other people's urgencies, perfection, running on empty, mindset and lack or limit or scarcity, pushing myself. It's like you can kind of see there's like all these themes of maybe your natural way of living, but things that are not in line with that. Sometimes it's easier to see things that are not in line than it is to like dream up the things that are. Sometimes it's easier to dream up the things that are. And then by default, you're like, these kind of crowds out the things, energies, people that are not. So this is the antidote, hopefully. Like this is my prayer for you this summer is to actually take some time and think through, like, how do I want to feel? If I was in charge of my time and day, and yes, there's so many parts of the day where maybe we're not specifically in charge of it, but there are so many parts that we are. Okay, so you can either argue for your limitations of like, you don't have the time, you're not in charge of your schedule, and you have all these commitments and things you have to do, or you can see that there probably are just as many. See it in a lens of possibility of like, what could I do here, instead of feeling like, well, I can't, so I might, why not even try? Because that's the mindset that we're actually trying to get to, right? Is that specific mindset of like, this is not about being perfect at this. This is not about all or nothing. This is not about failing, at another thing. This is about having the mentality of like, what can I do and where in small ways that do add up? Because consistency is what matters over time, way more than intensity. Even though everything in our society and every diet and every fad and every like masculine way of living will say that it's about urgency and intensity, and that's how you get what you want. It's not true. Okay. So when it comes to like eating healthier, living healthier, being more intentional with your life and your time and your space and where you're giving your time and energy to, it has to be more in line with the mentality of like, I'm doing what I can, where I can, and all of these little things add up. They all count. They all matter. Especially if you're thinking about the things you're doing consistently over time will get you so much further than the mentality of like intensity. Because you want to make it sustainable so that you can do it and like keep doing it, even when days are not perfect and things don't go according to plan, but that you have that commitment to yourself and honoring yourself and your energy and your nervous system and your body and taking care of yourself. That even in a time like summer where you're likely taking care of so many other people and things, so many other things on your plate, to start to just be women who take care of yourself too in the mix. You take care of your growth. You take care of your mind. You take care of your own like growth and thriving as a woman, realizing you do have so much say in how you think and in how you feel. Like we are really in control of so much, with the ultimate goal, I think, of all of this is like being women that just feel more alive, like more back in your life and back in your bodies, and not like sucked dry and pulled away and distracted and scattered and like overwhelmed and anxious and all of these things that women feel most of the time. But the realization of like, I could come back to myself, and it actually doesn't have to be these drastic things that I do, but about like little tiny things in my day. Little tiny shifts, little tiny swaps, little tiny changes like here and there, and knowing that it all adds up. Because it really does. It changes everything. And then ways to keep it fun, right? Like that we have to make this process fun. Otherwise, who's going to want to like be healthy? Who's going to want to do this if it's not fun? So like something like this of creating these images and like playing a little bit more and just wearing things a little bit more lightly, like holding them a little more loosely rather than it's all like so serious all of the time. Okay. That's what I want for you this summer. That's what I want for me this summer. And I just have had so many so many thoughts and visions around this. I'm like, I just have to share this. I hope that this was helpful and inspiring, and really like for you to just take a second before the world takes over and the like schedules come in, of like, take a second, even this weekend, to just like write it down or make a note on your phone of how you want to feel. And like, what are the different categories of your life where you could influence your life in a good way? Even if it's nobody else knows about it but you. Right? Even if you just have this little filter inside just for you. And for those of you who are like, this is what I need. This summer, there's two different options. If you're like, I need more of this in my life. One is the secret energetics of food. If you feel like the food piece of this specifically, like the trust in your body and the hunger and like slowing down and figuring out what your nervous system is saying and actually like not fighting against yourself so hard, especially when it comes to food, to be able to eat more and not be like constrained by this. I can only eat these foods. These are good foods. These are bad foods. I have food sensitivities. I have digestive issues. I have all of these things. It's like because there's stuff going underneath the surface that impacts how your body is clenching and holding on to weight, holding on to energy, holding on to the anxious, overwhelmed, tight feeling of like becoming somebody who just like retraining your body, like how to eat in a way that actually nourishes you. That's not about perfection and not about like eating the right types of foods or being on a diet or that you have to have this much protein. It is all this robotic way of eating of like, what if you just didn't have to do any of that? You could be more intuitive and more trusting. So that's the secret energetics of food. That's going to be open all summer because I'm like just such a summery like thing to dig into. It's been amazing, all the women I've had do it. And then if you're like, I just need more of this way of thinking in my life, I just launched the Simply Real Immersion. And that is, it's not for everyone. It's like a very specific type of woman who's like, I am ready for this. And I'm really ready for this in a very nervous system steadying way. Like I want to make some changes to how I'm feeling and how I'm showing up for myself. And I keep kind of getting in my own way. I know I need to work on my mindset, but there never really seems to be the time to do that. And I know I want to make some changes in my routine or habits. And like, it's all connected. Our habits, our mindset, our food, our energy, like the beliefs we have in ourselves, the stories we tell. It's like, it's all one thing. It's all like health is not just one of those things. It's mental, physical, emotional. It's even spiritual. And so the immersion is this almost mastermind that I created. And I'm almost like not even going to talk about it because I shouldn't talk about it. There's only one spot left, but it's for 6 months with me from now until the end of the year to like go through all the parts of your life. You get access to every program I have ever done. So Simply Real Life, the method, the secret energetics of food, the mindset program I've done, the motherhood program I've done, you get all of it. I'm just like surrounding you with all the resources and support and energy. We do one-on-one coaching together each week, me and you, like a secret private line of Voxer coaching back and forth, talking through the week. What do you have going on this week? What are we wanting to work on? What are the things coming up? Like, let's find some different solutions here, some different ideas, like invaluable. Just like whispering into your life every single week for 6 months. Tell me you would not be changed by that. I know that you would. So it's for women who are like, I know I want to do this. I don't want to do anything drastic. I know I want to make some changes. Help me learn how to trust myself. Help me learn how to be more intuitive. Help me learn how to put together all of these pieces, but do it in a very like simple way that is not overwhelming, but like making changes in like slow, steady way over time. Consistency versus intensity. It's really what changes our brain. And most of it is like comes down to our mindset. So 2 options. I have 1 spot left for that because it's so like high touch and intimate, and you get to join the Insiders Club, which is my every other week live coaching group. And people ask questions and, we come in with like teaching and topics live like this every other week, small group format. And it's just amazing. So I just want you to know that there are resources and places and things that you can dive into that really help support this vision of you, like as a woman who has more light and like magic and joy back in her eyes. It is possible. You do not need to be drowning in all the ways that we're told to be and all the things that we're told to hold and the ways that we should do it and the like performing and pleasing and perfectionism. And it's like, we don't have to do it that way. There's so many ways to live and go through your daily life and live in your body and your mind in a like renewed, refreshed way. And so know that that's there for you, especially as somebody who is stepping into this version of yourself. You're like, I am a woman who takes care of myself. I take care. I invest in my growth. I invest in my mind. I invest in my happiness. I am creative with it. I like to play with it. I like to do things like these seasonal workshops and intentions of like cast a new vision for myself. If it's not feeling good, if I'm feeling kind of stuck or small or I'm feeling just overwhelmed in this brand new season, like changes in the season are big transitions. So being a woman, right, who's like, I'm going to take action. I'm not just going to let things happen to me and just, this is the way life is and it's hard and I just have to grit through it. And you just have to have a lot of, self-control, and that things need to look a certain way in order to feel like that in your life. It's kind of the opposite. We work on how we want to feel. We work on how we're thinking. We look at like habits, routines, things, and knowing that they're all so deeply connected, and we can make slow and gentle change. Okay? So I'll send out those options and know that they're there, and they are there for you and ready to step in if they feel like a good fit. There are always resources for you and ways to be supported and ways to be uplifted and encouraged. And I will tell you one thing that we need things like that to help remind us of who we want to be. So even in this small context of like, what is the vision you're casting for this summer? What is the version of you who you're wanting to be? We need constant reminders of those things because the world will pull you away. It's everything is based on that, of like as many reminders, as many places as you can get in to good energy, to people who think like you or like this, to ways that you remind your own brain of like how you want to think and how you want to be and how you want to feel. We need constant reminders because we're human. So there's nothing wrong with you if you feel like you go through and you get these big visions and you get excited about things, and then it's like life just pulls you away. So setting up things for yourself where you have either accountability or you have things that you're constantly learning or diving into, or books or podcasts you listen to, or workshops like these, or things where you invest in coaching, or you do programs of like, keep your minds going, keep having dips in the reminders of who you want to be. Writing these things out that we talked about today, keep it in a place where you can see it, where you maybe review it every week. Like, am I living in line? Does my week line up to this? Are there things I need to change or edit? And just knowing that like we have the freedom to do that. We have so much say in how our life feels. And so much of it is internal. And the women who have the most success at this, the most success at change and feeling great in their lives and feeling inspired and in good energy and aligned with how they want to feel, have some way of reminding themselves often or frequently, containers that they grow in, that they pour into themselves, because they know if when they do that, it is so much easy to effortlessly pour out and give and serve your people, family, community, like everything that matters to you in life. But you will find, and this is an invitation for you to like look around your life at the women you look at and feel like they are thriving, not just thriving from the outside that people look and be like, wow, they have it all together, but like thriving from the inside. Like they are confident and self-assured and they know themselves so well and so deeply, and they take care of themselves physically, mentally, emotionally. All of them probably have ways that they are investing in themselves and like continually, consistently pouring into themselves. So if you're not doing that, that's a little challenge for you this summer, is to figure out what ways you can be nourishing, feeding your body, your mind, your soul, so that these visions can actually come to life. And whether it's the Mediterranean woman version of you or something entirely different, of having ways that you continually remind your brain and pour into yourself and really like feed this version of the woman that you're becoming, and treating her with such love and care, and that like this is an important thing. Just as important as everybody else and everything else that you're probably taking care of. So that is my hope for you this summer, and for me. Okay. I love you guys. I hope that this was helpful. If you have any questions, things you want to follow up about, you can always send me an email to hello@simplyrealhealth.com. I hope that this was helpful, or send me a message on Instagram too @simplyrealhealth. It would be amazing. I hope this is inspiring, and I really hope that you take these things and put it into practice in your life. and that you make this summer and this season feel so good to you. It doesn't have to look good to anybody else or prove to anyone else, but like internally, that feeling. Okay. Keep me posted as you do. I want to see. And I also would love to know, like, what are the visions that you do have? Is it an entirely different persona or image? Like, what comes to mind for you? What words are you going for? I would love to know. It's so fun to hear. Yes. I love you guys. I hope you have a great summer. Yes. Thank you for being here. And for those of you too watching on the replay later, love it. Sending you all my love. If you enjoyed this episode and want more like it, make sure you're subscribed to the Simply Real Life podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, and maybe share it with a friend or two. That would mean the world.